I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, November 8th, 2023 Norristown Council meeting to order. Can I have a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, can I have roll call?
Rebecca Smith.
Here.
Rashaad Bates. Tiffani Hendley. Dustin Queenan.
Here.
Lauren Hughes.
Here.
Heather Lewis. Thomas LaPera.
Here.
She's going to be here.
Heather Lewis will be on there.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to approve the previous minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Guys have it. Executive session announcement. We had an executive session on personnel and real estate. Council, are there any announcements? Any announcements? Seeing none, we'll move into public comment. Before I go into public comment, since we have a little bit of a crowd here, and since everybody kind of knows what's been going on already, I'll just mention that Norristown staff and council has been in negotiations with the county over the weekend, starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, about the Erie Street Prison, in which we will not be voting on tonight. We are going to continue that process, as the county asked us to do, as they have plans to put out an RFI on the property to see what kind of attention developers bring to it. So, with that, I'll move into public comments.
Olivia Brady.
Do
Scott.
you want to do it now?
Yeah. That's
Okay, let's back up 1 second, I'm sorry. Since we have the police force here and there's our state representative, Greg Scott's kind of has to be moving. He has a proclamation for Officer Butterworth. Do you want to go grab him?
The officer has to get back on the street. He's on duty. So,
All yours, Greg. Or State Rep Scott, I mean.
So, good evening, everyone. I just want to, first of all, this is the first time I've appeared in front of the body as your state representative, so I want to say, first of all, hello. My office is obviously open. I know Crandall and the administration have enjoyed a good working relationship with our team. Tonight, I'm here because we want to present Officer Butterworth with a citation. And before I do that, I just want to give a quick couple comments while I've got the floor to talk about our police department and our public safety as a whole. I know we've had some transitions at the leadership level, but for the most part, the rank and file members of the police department that I got a chance to know over the last 6 years as a district judge and now November, right? So 11 months as a state rep, had to do the quick math, are out there every single day doing yeoman's work. And I think it's incredibly important that we just take a moment to recognize what happened around the country over the last 5 years, 10 years with respect to policing, and then what has taken place in our community. And that narrative is, quite frankly, different. And it's because the men and women of the Norristown Police Department, and they show up every day recognizing the dynamics of our community, how they interact with our community. And so I think it's important that we recognize that work is sometimes in the most hard conditions, but they do it every day. So I want to applaud all of them as a whole. But tonight we're going to recognize Officer Butterworth, who I got a chance to know also has a district judge, not because he was in front of me as a defendant, but because he was in front of me as a plaintiff. Officer Butterworth, we point coming up, I think we all know what happened on the news, down at the Riverfront Park. And I wanted to highlight that because not too often do we get a chance to hear the good stories. You know, if something happened with one of our officers in the community that was negative, all of your emails would light up, my emails would light up, there would be protests. And so it's important that we also recognize all the good work that they're doing. And it was simply another day on the job for Officer Butterworth on September 4, 2023, when a car went into the river, and without hesitation, you all saw the video, this man jumped into the water and quite frankly saved a life. And so we want to clap for him and applaud him for that work, but we also want to recognize that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the House of Representatives took a moment out of our session to recognize the work that he did. And I know we couldn't bring the whole police department to Harrisburg, but I want to make sure that we brought Harrisburg to you, Officer Butterworth, and I want to thank you for our community. I'm a little biased because I got a chance to know a lot of these guys personally over the last 6 years in the courtroom. But he's actually one of the ones that gets it and gets it right. And so we're incredibly proud on behalf of the entire Norristown community, and then on behalf of the entire administration in Harrisburg, we want to acknowledge your work and say, job well done and thank you so much. And I would also point out that his wife is here, his 2 sons are here, and we want to clap for them for sharing him with us over these years. He did such a hell of a job that his son said, "Hey, I want to come to Norristown." And so we're proud that you're doing that, and thank you so much for the work that you did for all of that. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into public comment.
Olivia Brady.
Good evening. So I'm sure you were prepared to hear more about the prison tonight, so I'm not going to disappoint you, and I am still going to talk about the prison. Even though the news with the county has withdrawn the request in putting out an RFI for the information towards the end of the year, it certainly changes things. But the fat lady hasn't signed yet. She's still in the waiting room. She's still in the dressing room warming up. On one hand, I'm thrilled about the outcome, but I'm cautiously optimistic about the ultimate saving of the building. I'm concerned that the public is not going to have a seat at the table. This whole experience has shown me that there is immense value in citizen input in municipal assets. We should not be left out in the cold. We should not be told suddenly that there is an announcement of things that are about to happen. All along, there needs to be transparency where the public is engaged. I've heard complaints, many complaints in the past, from council, and I made complaints when I was on council, that we don't hear from the public, that we don't have volunteers coming to our committees, and we don't have people who run for office. One main reason that I think is that the public has sort of been given a message that the government doesn't want them around. I hope that we take this opportunity throughout this campaign to change that mindset. Allow the friends of the prison and other people to have a seat at the table when decisions are being made about the prison, and include residents in other major projects going on in the town. Don't keep things a secret. Don't keep things hidden under wraps. Furthermore, I'd like to have this opportunity be an opportunity that we use to have better relations with the county. Have the county look and pay attention to Norristown as its county seat, and make those connections with a strong alliance that can be formed between the municipality and the county government. A partnership that will allow the county seat to revitalize, a situation that could work for making that happen, and everybody having a voice towards that. Don't shut us out, and have this prison revitalization become a linchpin to our county seat revitalization. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anthony Urick.
Is there a microphone?
I don't need one. Good evening. As most of you probably know, there is construction currently on Rosemont and Washington Avenue. Some of it going until December 30th. There's probably 30, 40 displaced cars now looking for places to park. A lot of them are elderly people, and there's nowhere for them to go. I went on my own to LCR, which is at the corner of Washington and Forest Avenue, and spoke to the facilities manager, Bill Dude. And unfortunately, they do not have enough overflow parking to fit these cars that are having to move all over the place, and there's not really anywhere to put them. But I also spoke with him about potentially using the abandoned Rite Aid parking lot as temporary parking for the displaced residents. I know you do not have to answer any of my questions, but if you care to, now would be the time. And we won't. Carrying on. So, nowhere for the cars to go to. Spoke to Bill Dude, asked about the Rite Aid. This is August, would be the 5-year anniversary of the handicap curb cuts that I asked for at Washington and Rosemont Avenue that still are not there, and we've found multiple since then that need addressing. Additionally, a comment on Facebook from someone that said that they had the same additional issue. So, let's see, we did the construction. Oh, and this morning, trying to get ready for work. Normally, American Water gives a voicemail and email notification when anything happening with water is taking place. This morning, I had loss of power to the point where I couldn't take a shower properly before I went to work. I assure you I am clean right now, but it was an interesting experience. So where are we supposed to put all of these cars, essentially, is the main issue, which I don't think anyone's going to answer a single question. So, since we're not doing that, since we're not going to answer the curb cuts, I'll throw one more in there. I got a $50 fee because I had native pollinators growing a little bit into my sidewalk cracks, which can harvest cabbage white butterflies, silver spotted skippers, and fiery skippers. And it took me 10 minutes to take care of it, and I was charged $50 for 10 minutes of work. I was not given a notification. You understood.
Jim Waters?
Evening, everyone. Little change of venue tonight. I had you all sent a video that was made in 2008, Shame on You, Norristown. And I was working for the Stony Creek Anglers at the time, trying to keep the trash out of Stony Creek. Well, what it boiled down to is trash was being put out in plastic bags, and it was ending up in the storm drain, so on and so forth. So they got the cans with the lids and the wheels and all that, so that was taken care of. But when we started with this Keep Norristown Beautiful and going after the inventory of the blighted properties, it turns out in this video, in 08, there was a blighted property there that I didn't realize. And then as part of the inventory, 15 Oak Street, it was one of the ones that I had asked for through the Freedom of Information, but that never worked out. That's the one that there's 0 assessment and 0 taxes. But there's more of them out there, and that's what I wanted you all to know, what I see out there, because when we had the forum for the prison, a former council person got up and said that the prison was an eyesore. So if a former council person thought it was an eyesore, then in reality, you really had to see what was out there. Okay, the next thing is the floodplain fill-in on Barbados Island. I believe that there's a problem with FEMA with respect to their permitting this fill-in, because they referenced the 2016 flood, not the 2021 or the 2020. So, you know, we have a new 100-year flood. It was 2.5 feet above the other 100-year flood. Now, I spoke to Bridgeport because they're filling in. The filling in on Barbados Island is 5 feet high, 37 acres. Bridgeport is 28, but I think they went 30 feet up. Now, they're claiming that it's 1/10 of an inch, or of a foot, that's going to be affected on Barbados Island for 5 feet high and 38 acres. Now, I've calculated up to Lower Providence, or Upper Providence, including what was done in West Norton with the Bestwood area, and I come up with 1.7 calculation, just basically that. There's 2 foot worth of the excessive flood that damaged the sewer plant. See, I finally got around to it, right? I'm after damage to the sewer plant. And reading some of FEMA's stuff, it appears they're trying to drive people out of the floodplain. Now, the thing is, if they want to drive people out of the floodplain, rebuild that plant, that sewer plant.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Paul. Well, that was about it.
Thank you.
Other than we found out the flooding of Hamilton and James Street was the elementary school.
Peggy
in Warren
Belafonte.
You gotta go. I'll be back.
Hello, everybody. I'm breathing a sigh of relief tonight. It seems deciding minds are taking a pause to give the fate of the iconic prison more thought, I hope. Perhaps they heard the public outcry. I'm hoping that we can all come together for a common goal to give people a reason to come to Norristown, a place to be proud of, a destination, which would be the iconic prison on the hill. We, the Friends of the Erie Street Prison, will be holding more public forums in the future to discuss future plans, hopefully, for the castle-like prison that graces our downtown. I'm also optimistic that the council members will attend and engage with the residents and business owners of Norristown to get their finger on the pulse. 10 years ago, I came before council about the Erie Street Prison. I even brought a video of the Eastern State Penitentiary. I waited all night, and at the end of the meeting, everyone left, and I never got a chance to speak. I had a video of all the visitors, just in one night, that came to Fairmount to see that prison in October. I grew up across the street from that prison. And I know I mention that all the time, but for those of you that don't know that, that's where I grew up, a poor kid in Fairmount, with the prison across the street that I thought was a castle. I know that there are a lot of new buildings going up in the downtown, made of glass and steel. You must hold on to the historic prison. The old buildings are the ones with character and soul. They are the ones that will draw visitors into town. Thank you very much for the time that you've given me to speak. I come to you with my wisdom. Do you know I was given the key to the city? This city. That was one of the proudest moments of my life because I spent my whole life here, dedicated my life. I even named my band True Blue because I'm True Blue to Norristown. And I'm coming before you to please, we have to all get together, and I know I'm almost running out of time. I know you're watching the clock. But if we could all come together, council, the Friends of Norristown, the commissioners, the county, for a common goal. That would be a beautiful thing, and that could be a success story and something to be proud of. Something to tell your grandchildren one day.
Thank you, Ms. Peggy.
You're welcome.
Is it Phil DeFranco? Gotta get it.
I think there's a lot of people here that are residents of Norristown. They've been here all their lives. I have not. I've made Norristown my home for the past 39 years. And because I've come from other places and been involved in historic preservation, One thing I see is lacking in Norristown is a lot of willingness to do historic preservation. The prison is right now probably the most obvious example of that. That prison is an architectural marvel, at least the entrance to the prison is. And I think that giving people 2 weeks to come up with proposals to figure out what to do with that prison is not enough time. I make my living as an engineering project manager, and I've done these kind of things, and I know that 2 weeks is not a lot of time for a proposal. It's really not. So I'm asking right now that we start with the Erie Street Prison, give that enough time for people to look at that so that people can attach things to that that might also bring Norristown into that. Now, I used to be in Phoenixville a lot. Phoenixville was a ghost town, and now it's thriving. And Norristown could do the same thing. But we need to have the willingness to put the money and the time and the effort into doing that and figuring out what's best for the town. 2 weeks is not a lot of time. So what I'm asking for right now is give us a little bit more time to figure this out. Thank you.
You're mistaken, it's not going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be a lot longer than that, probably a year.
So the year of the
Is it a year?
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, because what I had heard was that it was just a 2-week delay.
No.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Lisa Teru, I'm not sure how to say it.
Hi, everybody. I'm here and because that prison, number one, is beautiful, but I wasn't born here either. I was born and raised in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. All right. I call Norristown my home for 22 years. All right. And I love this place. When you look at that prison, I see a vision. What if you took that prison and, you know, got in the back end, kept the museum front and whatever, and put a music venue in there? You got parking, you got music, and what brings the people together more than music? You've got so much potential in that building. There is so much. I love Norristown. It really is my home, and it has been. And there's so much you can do with it. You keep the history, don't let that lose that. You know, you gotta make sure people know the history. And then you keep it and use it for something that will benefit the entire area. Public transportation, right? You got a parking lot. You've got more parking lots. You're gonna have that big parking lot, the one that's being built. You could do anything there, but bringing music into this, I think local musicians, I already asked them, some major ones I know, and they would play in a heartbeat, okay? So things like that, you can put it together, bring people together, bring people into the town. I mean, I haven't seen that yet here. I mean, and I think it would be so beneficial for everybody to do, everybody to come here. Well, I mean, it would be a nice change, wouldn't it? So that's what I want to say. I don't know. Got a year now? We thought we had 2 weeks. But a year? That's good. All right. Think about it, though. Music, it brings people together.
Thank you.
John George? John George?
Good evening, everyone. I thought it was important to take time out from making gin, vodka, whiskey, and 4 other products to share some thoughts about the jail. When I first heard that it was going to be torn down, I was saddened. But now learning that there is more time to identify options as to what to do with that building, it fills me with a lot of excitement. You know, we've become part of Norristown, Five Saints Distilling. I believe that Norristown has a great past in its future. Folks that come in all the time saying, look at the great architecture that Norristown has. So I just want to say kudos to everyone involved, the commissioners, council, anybody else that made that happen. Let's take the time, and my message is very important and simple. Let's take the time to make sure that we identify options. What are the options that we can do with that building? What I've learned over time is that when you need to make a good decision, the most important thing to do is to identify all the options that you have available to you. If we take the time, and Thomas, a year, fantastic. If we take that time to do that, I think we'll at least identify the best option. We don't know what that option is going to be, but the best option is to what to do with that building, because if it was torn down, if that was the decision, All the options have been removed. There are no options. But now we've given ourselves that. So kudos to everyone involved. Congrats. Thank you.
David McMahon.
Hi, thanks. I want to make sure I thank, all the council members who met with us, and we had really good, constructive conversations. There's a lot of give and take in those moments. And hopefully we have more of that going forward. What I'd like to do tonight is just make sure that, we keep them going. We're gonna have a couple more town halls. We put on the first one. We want to make sure that we have like a lot of community input onto, what future reuse might look like. So that could be a role where you all still come in and maybe, talking among, constituents that you have when we start to advertise the next ones. Because this is an issue, it's a nationwide issue. We have 2 documentarians here today from California coming out because this is part of their project where they are looking at community involvement in repurposing prisons and what that looks like across the country. We're a more unique case study here because of the historic preservation aspect of this. Most of what they do, is involved in decommissioning more the types of prisons that have been involved in this kind of era of mass incarceration that kind of begins in 1973-ish. But so we're a unique case here. But eyes are on Norristown. I would like to see something done with that prison that hasn't been done before. There have been ideas floated and everything, but what is the use of that property that puts Norristown on the map, that makes it a draw, that makes it a thing that people come here to see, and really kind of aim high, see what we can put our heads together to come up with. Because it's an architectural masterpiece. The history of it needs to be addressed, confronted, healed from, moved on from, and I think having the opportunity to do that, having the breathing space to do that is important. But I want to have one caveat to that. I don't know what this postponement of the application is about. I'm going to need more clarity on that. But that'll be the public comment for 2 weeks from now. So, thanks.
Judge Nichols? Judge Nichols?
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to lean on this because I'm old now, It's good to be here. It's good to be anywhere. I concur with everything that's been said by the previous speakers. I live in Norristown. My wife and I have lived in Norristown, I guess, since the early 70s. I simply want to say that I appreciate the pause in the deliberations, and I hope it works, and that some creative, adaptive reuse could be made of this facility. One thing that should not enter into this discussion, and I have to say this, and I'm reluctant to say it, because I probably won't disabuse people of whatever views they hold about the criminal justice system. I spent 49 years of my professional life in the criminal justice system. It's not about me. I think I can say that the idea that the prison is worthy of destruction as a monument to injustice is just so wrong-headed. You can have your own views about it, but the fact of the matter is, when the county prison was closed in 1986, it was because it was overcrowded. 99 cells were simply inadequate, and somehow we managed to keep the lid on that place and serve the inmate population and protect the community. Well, when it closed, that didn't end incarceration. There's no history of incarceration that building stands as a monument to. No, incarceration continued to take place. In Lower Providence Township, a 500-bed facility expanded about 10 years ago with another $25 million expended by the county. The county's budget, I think, represents 13% of it is devoted to corrections. Corrections. It means when people commit wrong, there's consequence to it. It's necessary. It's an ingredient of the fabric of society. Wrongdoing unpunished gets repeated. We learned that as children. So, whatever your views are, fine. You can have them. But one of the reasons for destroying that prison as a monument to injustice is just flat out wrong. Just disabuse yourself of that notion. We're not the Taliban. We don't destroy things. We preserve things that are worthy of preservation. Thank you for your time.
Okay, moving on. This Buildings and Code Compliance Historical Architectural Review Board of October 2023.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, before you is a request. As you know, Norristown HARB receives applications on a monthly basis for exterior repairs, alterations, demolitions, and renovations for properties located in Norristown's historic districts. Those applications are reviewed by the HARB members to confirm that the repair, alteration, demolition, and or renovation work is in compliance with our municipal ordinance. The HARB has reviewed the applications and have approved either as submitted or modified. As mentioned on the COA, the following properties, only 2 properties, 22 East Elm Street and 1214 West Erie Street.
Noting that it does not include the old prison, correct?
That is correct.
Council, any questions? That, do I have a motion to approve the HARB of October 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith?
Aye.
Dusty Queenan?
Aye.
Lauren Hughes?
Aye.
Thomas LaPera?
Aye. The ayes have it.
Heather's
Heather's here? Oh, Heather, sorry, Heather.
Heather's an aye. The ayes have it. HARB passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and Municipal Development. Ms. Massanier, we have a presentation on 2 proposed mixed-use developments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, tonight you're going to hear conceptual plans for development for 2 locations, one at the southwest corner of Main and DeKalb, and the other at 225 East Main Street. And this is by the Norristown Community Development Corporation. I believe the representatives are here, and they have a presentation on a flash drive. Basically, they're asking for your feedback, as we usually do, when a developer comes into town and they're looking to get some feedback from council before they undertake the zoning or land development process. They really do need your feedback so they know which direction they would take. So tonight, Norristown Corporation should be presenting soon. So who will be presenting?
There's a group of us here.
Okay.
Shane, I'm gonna start and introduce these guys. One, it's super exciting to hear about all the people who have come to Norristown who are not from Norristown. I am from Norristown, along with a lot of other folks in the room, and I also bleed blue, which is exciting. But the group that you're going to hear from tonight is an amazing group of individuals who've been working very hard at looking at Norristown as a whole. Obviously, everyone is aware of the big project coming to town with the State Hospital property. What's exciting about these guys who we're going to talk to today is they came a few years before that and started looking at the town as a whole, as well as the site. It's exciting to see Norristown under the leadership as to where it is today. We've been talking about this for a long time. It's really exciting to talk about Norristown now and the growth and all the positive things. I can't imagine what you guys have to do on a daily basis, but it's awesome to see it and be a part of these guys and really get to feel it. I mean, it's close. I know it seems frustrating because we've been treading water for a long time, but it's time now. And it's Norristown's time, so I'm excited. I'm going to turn it over to Frank, and he's going to introduce his team.
Thank you. Council, thank you for having us. Everyone, thank you for your time. My name is Frank Cifelli. I'm a part of Genco Development. My partners are here, Sean Frankel, Josh Matthew. Moman isn't here, but he wasn't feeling well tonight. Also have our architecture partners, ISA, Joe Catianui, Norristown guy, also part of Genco Development. I know I don't want to keep you guys too long, but I do want to talk a little bit about not just those 2 specific parcels and those 2 specific developments, more so what happened about 18 months ago. I actually got to meet, Joe introduced me to Al. So going to the Center Theater, I live 4 miles away from here in Conshohocken. And I drove by DeKalb, Maine, gosh, probably 10 times a week. And I never could figure out as a developer why there wasn't this thriving Main Street. So I asked some of my neighbors in Conshohocken, and they said all the things that you guys have heard from other people. I won't even repeat them. But they were misinformed of what had changed, right? All the investment from the county in the courthouse infrastructure. So I meet Al, and as you can imagine, he sold me. Right, the Center Theater is incredible. You see DeKalb, Maine, all the traffic. Anyways, from coming from Conshohocken, I thought to myself, you know, people think Conshohocken's fantastic and it's great. All these apartments along the river, no commercial. If I want to go out and eat, I'm either going to Bertucci's with my kids or have to go to, you know, King of Prussia, Plymouth Meeting. And ideally, what we see is developers in a place to really invest in. It's all the assets, right? It is the investment. It's great traffic, you know, getting to 76. I don't know if you've heard this from me yet or not, but have you heard the hole in the donut story? It's a hole in the donut. Everything around Norristown really can't, it's developed. It's the next logical step. So I'm here and we're here to talk about those two developments, but also talk about our commitment. So at a time right now when real estate development isn't exactly thriving with high interest rates, ridiculous construction costs, we started 18 months ago. In the last 6 months, we've invested $4 million into those two properties. And that's $4 million into vacant land. And to develop those properties, it's going to cost us another $50 million. That's a commitment to you guys. We're also talking to other property owners along the Main Street because we're looking not to stop there. One of the things that we've learned being in Philadelphia is if you find an area that you really like, you want to have as much control over what happens there as possible. And that doesn't mean coming in and doing what we think is right, but it's coming in and owning enough of that property to work with you guys and really think through what the best strategy is. ISA is here to talk to you about that a little bit also. They are almost like I don't know if a master planner, but they're going to help us put together a plan that ideally you guys get behind and we can kind of go back and forth with a little bit. I don't just see this being a bunch of apartments over parking. I see a lot of apartments over thriving commercial, great restaurants, local. I'm tired of going to Bertucci's, right? Experiences, entertainment. Someone mentioned music, and I tell you, stole my thunder. Because, you know, we've been in talks with people like Live Nation to see what would it take to get them on Main Street. When I want to go to a concert, I have to go to the city. I don't want to go to Broad and Poplar anymore. And I grew up 10 blocks away. My mother's still there. It's not really where I want to go for a concert. Or I have to go see my buddy Sean in Jenkintown and go to the Keswick Theater. Could you imagine that on Main Street? You bring the 1,500 people to Main Street 200 nights a year, guess what happens? Restaurants now want to be there. Al gets his restaurant on the first floor. So, I totally went off my script, which I'm not surprised. But I only was supposed to speak to this slide anyway. But yeah, I just really wanted to come in. We wanted to come in and get feedback from you. I know we spoke to you last week. Ultimately, again, that kind of shows our commitment to Norristown. I think what happens on Main Street is going to impact what happens at the hospital, and what happens there is going to impact what happens on Main Street. We need others to join us. Whether it's MM Partners across the street, we need that to happen. Again, having come from the city and seeing what it takes to change an area, it's not any one developer. Though you do need one vision now. And I think the important thing to happen over the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months is to kind of have a joint vision as to what that, you know, that 7-block stretch of Main Street and the surrounding blocks look like. Can we be our version of Frankfurt Ave? I think we can. Can we be our version of Phoenixville? I think we can. That being said, let me pass you over to Josh. Josh Matthews and Brian from ISA.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. We're going to show some slides. Should I advance from the computer or should I stand in the middle and say next?
If you want to talk, then...
All right, thanks. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, good. And this will advance?
I don't think it will. Yeah, left, right. And over there.
Oh, great, okay. God, this feels so formal. I don't know what's tougher, being in the middle or being up front, looking at all you guys. This is actually a pretty informal chat. We're kind of getting to know Norristown and our client just by having a chance to think about this incredible opportunity. So just keep in mind, nothing here is said and nothing here is quite real, but we hope we're able to make it real with our client and you guys over the next several years. In getting to know Norristown, and you guys know so much more than we do, we're based in Philly, and we haven't been here a whole lot, but when we came to visit, we were of course really impressed by the building stock and all the incredible things that are seem to be sort of, ready for some new activity, and I know you guys have been working hard on that. I think we're really intrigued by, we were talking about the hole in the donut, and that gets pretty small because there's incredible assets with the Schuylkill Expressway and SEPTA, new development happening all around the area, and a really wonderfully intact Main Street. And I know you guys were talking about historic preservation earlier. I mean, there's incredible buildings that are still here, and as a Philadelphian coming to Norristown, it's amazing what's still here. So as much as I know that you guys are worried about the fabric, you've got it, and I think part of this is not losing it, and we're excited to be a part of that. Just a quick map that we made just to sort of lay out Main Street. We're kind of over here to the left. Here's DeKalb, here's Main. We've been just looking at some of the existing developments. Our client has these two parcels that are highlighted here, which we'll show a bit later, and maybe Josh will talk about. But I think the whole idea of this is not exactly what is about to happen in the first step, but how thinking about the corridor as a kind of cohesive zone that our client and other developers can participate in, and you guys can participate in imagining what could happen through time is really what we're looking at. Man, I was just Googling, there's just like none of this kind of storefront left in the greater Philadelphia area. There's very few of them, and these are really vintage, intact storefronts that are quite beautiful, amazing kind of building blocks. And we're also recognizing, and by the way, these are things that we think shouldn't change, and I'm sure you think the same, that these are incredible pieces of the history of the street and can be reused and enlivened, as we're seeing with some of them already. Maybe there are some spaces where new things can be focused, whether they're open lots or improvements on buildings that really aren't contributing to the texture of the street as much. But this is really the main focus of what I wanted to share with you guys today. It's a little funny, there's a diagram here, you'll recognize that plan from the last slide, and then there's a little imaginary Norristown. You guys are looking at that going, that's not Norristown, that's true. It's purposely an imaginary piece of Main Street that looks similar to the scale, just so that we're not confusing reality with possibility. And there's some parking lots, there's some vacant spaces, there's some existing buildings. I'm sure there's days when there's that number of people on the street, but that's what we're aiming for. And I think what we're thinking about is as development happens, and it will happen unevenly and in fits and spurts, small things and big things, our client and ourselves are adept at starting to activate parking lot surfaces, bringing in program without building anything, just to help work with all of, frankly, the people probably in this room that have projects and ability to help sort of program things. We're excited to help out with that. And as things start to happen, it's a process, improvements happen. Vacant storefronts can be occupied, surfaces can be painted, signage can be improved, and in the meantime, there continues to be additional programs and excitement that just builds on the street. As you guys recognize in great corridors, there's a lot of things that happen outside, in the parking lane, on the sidewalk, on the weekends. It's not always just brick and mortar. But that adds a lot of value to what's about to happen and helps guide what will happen, to not completely reinvent or take over a place, but to slowly change it. I think this is about slow change and smart change. And so once these things start to happen, smaller buildings can fit in, and we're very interested and are kind of expert in this idea of missing middle housing. Maybe you guys have heard the phrase, not elevator buildings that are high density, that are expensive to build, but buildings that fit into the fabric, look more like what's here, walk up, walkable, more affordable, more inclusive, more people can live there. And of course, bigger things are part of the vision. And I think the key is a lot of times there's developers that come in that are looking for the big things first, and that may happen, but always to keep an eye on all the small things and the medium things that surround that. Real quickly, and thanks for the time, some images of what we've been doing. We were the design team behind Cherry Street Pier, you guys may know, in Philadelphia, which is a classic pop-up space. We worked on Ambler Yards, which actually is not far from here, which is a collection of old industrial buildings that have been activated. There's a great beer garden there that happens, food trucks pull in. Now and Then Marketplace, which actually our client collaborated with Steph Irwin and her Weekend Flea, which was an incredible success. So there's a lot of skill here in being able to really make this stuff happen. And then talking about sidewalks without buildings, street furniture. This is a plaza we just opened. If you ever go to the International Bar on Frankfurt Avenue at Cecil B. Moore, we just opened this plaza. with the Fishtown Kensington Business Improvement District. We've done street art around the country, including Louisville, Kentucky, and also facade improvements, which you're seeing here on the right. And I'll just point out the storefront. We worked with this owner during the pandemic to create QR code shopping and thinking about how to sustain businesses in tough economies and growing economies. We're also architects and have done many small and large buildings in Philadelphia and around the country that we would love to do a building in Norristown when the time comes, but just to give you sort of like the kind of breadth of our expertise and what we're up to. So it's kind of the starting point. I'm going to pass it over to Josh here in a sec, and I'll just point out back to this map. These are the two sites that I think Josh may mention. Maybe I can just say one more thing because it kind of dovetails back to what I was saying, that the Main and DeKalb project that these guys are looking at may be something a little bigger, and the 225 East Main Street site, which is also of interest, might be something a little smaller. So on the one hand, something that's a little bit more of a hub and a sort of bigger moment of development, while thinking about things that are more infill and composed of sort of small pieces that meet Main Street and activate the storefront. Josh?
Sure. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Appreciate everyone here for just hearing our presentation and giving us a forum to speak at. I want to piggyback off of some of Frank's comments earlier, and the hole in the donut comment is super important because when you look at the surrounding towns like King of Prussia, Plymouth, Conshohocken, they lack the history, they lack the grit, they lack the authenticity that Norristown has. They don't have the thriving, or potential thriving Main Street that Norristown has. If you go to Conshohocken at night, there's probably a couple places that you can go to, but there's not the pedestrian activity that you could potentially see here on the Main Street corridor. And what's really beautiful about the development that we're going to do here is that we have a $500 million investment that's happening with the Municipal Justice Center. And we have the ability to piggyback off of that. And that project's going to be delivered in 2026. So we're sitting here today in 23. The reality is, when we go to Jane's planning department, we're going to learn that it's going to take us about a year to get entitled or so. And then probably about a year or two to build, which will have us deliver right around the same time the Municipal Justice Center opens. But what do we do in between then and now? Right now, if you look at the interest rates today, it's impossible to break ground on anything today. The investment market is in shambles right now, but we look at that as an opportunity because having the vacant sites that we have along the Main Street corridor, we can do what Brian had alluded to, which is kind of activate the corridor, doing different, unique events, whether it's doing a night market, whether it's activating some vacant storefronts, whether it's collaborating with the community, the business community and the general public on how to activate the corridor, bring people down there, support small businesses, do pop-up type functions where we can give small businesses the opportunity to kind of put their wares out on the market, whether it's products or services, without having to sign up for brick and mortar and sign a long-term lease. They can actually do it out in the street or utilize some of our spaces for free. And we can do that for the next year or two until market conditions improve. And then at that point, people understand Norristown and the Main Street as a destination. So we start to sell that story a little bit more and the word gets out, and now we're building momentum. And then that leads into the projects that, can you flip to the slide with the two sites? It flips to these projects, right? So Main and DeKalb being site one, it gives us the opportunity there, and we don't have an exact rendering to show you per se, but generally the way we're sizing the project is to 100 and 120 units, somewhere in that range, probably between 5 and 6 stories. We are in talks with different grocery users, like small format grocery for the corner. And I think, again, when we're talking about a 2026 delivery, it meshes really well with the Municipal Justice Center and all the activity and traffic that's going to bring to the downtown area. And one of the things that we've also heard about, and one of the commenters here about the prison site, was the lack of entertainment options. And I think, again, as you get that momentum and more eyes and people and feet on the street, along with the amount of traffic that you already get, you start to open up the possibilities for different entertainment options. And you can piggyback off of some of the existing uses and businesses that are on the corridor. So our next site is 225 East Main Street, a little bit smaller than the main DeKalb site. It was formerly a furniture store. And that site, we're looking at 40 to 50 units. And we're thinking about possibly utilizing the existing building or scraping it and going vertical 4 to 5 stories. Each of these sites, if you'll notice, they have ground floor retail, and we think that's really important to talk about because you need density to support the retail. So if you're not putting up the housing, you don't have the people to come in to go into those businesses, to spend their money, and to support them. So we think it's important that we talk about mixed-use development and we support that because that is also a big piece to activating the corridor and maintaining it into the future. So, this forum is really to make you aware. It's to get your feedback. It's to get your support also because some of the work that ISA has done with us in the city in Philadelphia has had major benefits for those neighborhoods. And I can just name a few really quickly. Brewerytown along Girard Avenue, Frankfurt Avenue, and Fishtown. If you know those areas and those neighborhoods, those corridors are thriving. And it's a lot of, because of Brian's work and some of our work in the city. And we're definitely really looking forward to this opportunity, and we think it's a great opportunity for Norristown as well. I think we're going to have Frank or Al close out.
Yeah, I'm happy to close, yeah. Just in closing, we appreciate your guys' time. We certainly don't want to seem like you're coming across as that developer that, comes in, buys property, thinks they can do whatever they want, and, I have the right. We really want to be a partner, right? Work together with you guys, take feedback, come up with a cohesive plan that we and other developers can kind of attack. And if there's any questions or any feedback, we're more than happy to answer any questions. Again, a lot of this is very conceptual. I think it's very realistic but conceptual. And we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Council, any questions? I do. You said that you have invested $4 million. Is that in these two properties essentially?
Yes.
That's what you,
just land costs.
And that's just land costs, so you have them under contract essentially?
No, we own them, not under contract. I mean, a lot of people, again, down real estate market, what a lot of people are looking to do is tie up a property, put it under contract, push your buy date out to 12 months, 24 months. We've purchased these and own them. Those dollars are invested. And I'd say that's in the last 6 months, and it's a really big deal. This is a market where people aren't buying anything. But we're so committed to the idea of what Norristown can be that we've committed $4 million in dirt. And the nice thing is, what does that really translate to build these developments? Another $50 million. And that's just the beginning. When I tell you we've spoken to a number of other property owners along Main Street, our goal is to ultimately, in 10 years, have 1,000 units on Main Street. Our group.
And by activating spaces, would you start sooner than later with that?
Yeah, I think the opportunity is right here, right now. And this main DeKalb site, do you have the current conditions or image of that? Currently, there's a one-story building that's right here on the corner that effectively acts as a billboard for us, right? We could turn that into, we can activate it with art and run pop-ups out of there now. And the great part about it is Al Zone across the street with the Center Theater, they're already activating the corridor. They're really one of the main little hubs in that pocket that's bringing excitement to that corner. So we think we can kind of find synergies with that and deliver in partnership with them. And we kind of, one of the images that Brian showed on the slide showed kind of a vacant lot and how it gets activated over a period of time. And I think that's really what we're trying to explain here today. It's that we can really make things happen. So the short answer is, yeah, we can definitely activate that spot.
Great. So just let me say something. Do you see this here? You see this whole corridor here? This is the heart of Norristown. This is the heart. And without a heart, you can't survive. And what we want to do is not change anything. I don't want to tell you anything. I want to just listen to you. And I want to hear, because you guys know what's the best fit for this. With our vacant stores, we can't get retail to exist today. So some of those vacant stores, we want to turn into something where we could bring in a provider, maybe turn it into incubator space. All of the development, because Josh, Frank, and I have been developing the city for quite some time, it's all going to be green development. I want to put solar on top of the roofs. I want to handle the storm water on the site. I know that you would be very thrilled if I didn't contribute to the sewers. We don't want to do things differently. So we ate at a place called Lou's, right? I got to tell you, they suggested that I have a Zep sandwich. Let me tell you something, I don't know if I would eat it again, but it was interesting. And I tried it because they said it's like a Norristown staple, and that's what we want. We want those. We want to hear from you. What are those stores that are out there? How do we bring another satellite store onto Main Street? Because that's the heart. And without your heart, you can't survive. What we want to do is just try to add.
Any other questions?
I'm excited to hear that you actually have a pop-up site that you can activate, because that brings in different types of interests and different people into Norristown. Just, you know, man, all right, like, for example, the convention center, you could just look at there, all the different interests that goes to Oaks, and those people are always looking for different things to do. So that's interesting that you have a pop-up shop that as you're ready to activate. And that brings a lot of different opportunities. So I'm definitely looking forward to talking to you guys and see what we can bring to Norristown and get the constituents, folks, you know, ideas and stuff like that. So looking forward to talking to you about that.
And Denise, you raise your hand. So Denise is very heavily involved in the community, especially in the Latino community here in Norristown, and they just had one of the most successful, probably, street festivals that I've ever seen. It was incredible, and there was a ton of food vendors out there, and I would encourage you guys to have a conversation to kind of activate those spaces like you talk about with local folks that are already kind of doing so.
Can I ask council a question? Like, what things have you guys been looking at in terms of supporting the corridor, in terms of different initiatives, whether it's storefront improvement, or I've read about some things and some money getting devoted to that. Like, what can we do in partnership with you guys to really make this corridor thrive?
Ms. Mansani?
I'm sorry, I'm not council. We do have various initiatives. As you might have heard of the Historic Facade Program. We have a Main Street, what we call job creation and retention. And you're right in the opportunity zones. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. And of course, we have tax abatements, the local ones. And we also have LERTA that involves the 3 taxing bodies. But yes, we have quite a number of things for you.
Would the municipality be willing to support like activations such as what we talked about, whether it's pop-up or night festivals, things of that sort?
Well, I think for sure it's all on the council in terms of what they want, but we want the town activated day and night, and so very much open to the conversation.
The council would be opposed to anything fun happening downtown.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
The best part of it is we already, you guys already have half of that solved. You have a $500 million courthouse with all of these employees who are there all day. There's just not a lot of food choice options.
Right.
The reason that is because there's not enough people to keep them open after 5 o'clock. As we develop and grow. And as the heart of Norristown develops and the apartment buildings start to come, the stores and the shops and the restaurants are going to start to multiply. And although I love blues, I need just a different option, or my cardiologist does.
He just doesn't like onions.
It was this big. What am I eating, an onion sandwich?
We'll get the cheesesteak tomorrow.
Very good. I would just add, along with the team that you certainly worked with, Jane, myself, we also, council also added a special events coordinator to our team. And so we'll be happy for any type of activation events you want. We'll connect you with our special events coordinator, and we're ready to hit the ground rolling with that anytime you're ready.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Yeah.
Crandall, they did meet with Tracy. They sponsored the winter carnival last year.
Okay, excellent, excellent, yeah.
And thank you.
Crandall, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, and maybe I heard incorrectly, but I caught that you and this development team intends to have 1,000 units, like rental units, on Main Street?
So the development plan over time to truly get the heart to thrive, to get the stores and the shops and the restaurants, all the things that the people in Norristown can come and do, we're going to need some density directly on top. And what we're going to try to do is grow it. But we want to listen to you. Like, our thought and what our development team has come up with is that's just a number that we think would get the stores and the shops to operate, because this is a long stretch. There's a lot of stores and restaurants to fill here, and you need people to sit in chairs and to spend money there and to generate taxes too, which I know that you guys love.
Not to add to that, this type of development, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, mostly one. I'd say probably 80-20, 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom apartments. What that brings is young working professionals, not a lot of children that are going to put a strain on the school system. Is what I think is what I'm really trying to get to the heart of. Is that it's really incremental tax revenue that's not really taking a lot of cost back and sending the kids to school and stuff. And to Sean's point, I say 1,000. I'm a developer. I know if I say 1,000, I hit 500. I'm pretty happy. But that being said, it's just to support the commercial element. I can also, we talked about Frankfurt Ave, we talked about Girard Avenue. I can also name 50 different commercial corridors that didn't do it right. Conshohocken, I live there, I love it. My kids, there's like 5-6 restaurants along Fayette Street that don't change. All the rest turn over quite often. There's no density there. It's just not, they didn't do the best job of developing that from like a Main Street perspective, in my opinion.
And part of the thing is, you have the SEPTA parking lot, you have the municipal parking lot. We have all this extra parking, which as a developer, we hate to pay for too, right? So I'm like, well, we have it, it's gonna sit there. And after 5 o'clock, the courthouse is closed, all the people go home. So I'm thinking, how do we activate that all day?
Any other questions? Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you guys. Appreciate everything. Thank you for the opportunity.
The future. Okay. Moving on to presentation of proposed fiscal year 2024 Community Development Block Grant. Ms. Butterworth.
Thank you, Council President. Council, tonight is the, almost that's the 4th step that we take in that the municipality has to take in getting its annual community development block grant.
Excuse me, can you just take that at all? Thank you.
So I'll read this for the record the public participation process for the Community Development Block Grant for the fiscal year 2024. We start off by getting recommendations from administration, which is really developed throughout the year. We send a memo to council members as well as department heads on July 31st, 2023, and we ask them for project ideas so that we can start the process. We set a notice for a public hearing for the 2024 5-year and 2024 action plan to the local newspaper on September 15th and September 22nd. First public hearing to solicit public input was held October 2nd in this building. Proposed projects and budgets are going to be presented tonight, so that we'll have the opportunity to again put that in the local paper before we start the ordinance process. So I'm going to speak on the projects that are being recommended. Just keep in mind that some of these projects are required by the grant. For instance, having a housing component has been the grant. And there's certain projects such as fair housing that we have to have. And as you know, we also have projects that have been in the works and they have not been completed, so you'll hear me mention them. So the first project is the owner-occupied housing rehabilitation project, and we are proposing to continue it. This project, believe it or not, has been going on since 1986, and I think we've done well over 450 houses, just keeping the properties in owner-occupied. So we're proposing $124,961 to have the technical support for that project. We're proposing the $35,000. Fair Housing Council, to keep us compliant with HUD regulations, we're proposing $30,000. The Small Business Assistance Center, and by the way, it'll be moving soon to a different location in North Main Street. We're proposing $40,000. The Main Street Economic Development Initiative, the one I just spoke to the developers, we're proposing $97,925,000. And then we have to begin the process for the 5-year consolidated plan. So in order for us to get the consultants to complete that, we're proposing $30,000. We have to pay back the Section 108 loan that we owe, and for that we have to set aside $442,447. And I know I'm going to be asked what's the balance. The balance for that Section 108 is $2,720,000, and the last payment will be made in August of 2030. So we're close to ending it. And then for the administration of this grant, we're proposing $118,672. That goes to the salaries, wages, and related costs in the planning department, so that helps with the general fund. The total of the grant we're anticipating is $919,005. Of course, this is all dependent on what Congress is going to pass next year, so we just have to have an estimate, and we have to have the projects we're proposing. We'll publish it in the papers, 30 days waiting for comments. We'll have an opportunity to have an ordinance, and we'll come before you to basically ask you to authorize an ordinance to publish that budget, and then we'll come back again. So you have almost 4 other opportunities to look at this. This is the very beginning of it. Okay, so that's tonight. I'm just asking you to allow me to advertise this, and then we can bring it back when we're ready for the ordinance piece.
Council, any questions?
What was the amount you said, Ms. Masani, for the Main Street Economic?
The Main Street Economic Development Initiative is $97,925. And may I add, we will be talking about the ARPA funding after this, so it will add to that whole initiative, the business initiative, which I know Council is very keen on.
Councilwoman Smith.
Could you
maybe just share some of the things that would be included in our support, that $97,000 for the Main Street Development Initiative. Like, what would be us versus what are we expecting other businesses to do?
What would be expecting a business to?
What would that support include? Yeah.
So, if a business, for instance, wants to buy equipment, or if the business wants to maybe put in a kitchen or have some improvements to have the business work. I think we did the same with Tim Shell. We've done this in the past. We did something similar with Five Saints. This is just to help with putting together a business physically on Main Street. But it's not really operational. It goes more to the brick and mortar. I don't know if I answered the question.
You did.
Okay.
Council, any other questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the authorization to advertise?
Second.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith?
Aye.
Dustin Queenan?
Aye.
Lauren Hughes?
Aye.
Heather Lewis?
Aye.
Thomas LaPera?
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion to advertise passes. Moving on to request for council to authorize to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Montgomery County.
Thank you again, Mr. President. As just I mentioned a few minutes ago, council is aware that the county had set aside $2 million for the American Rescue Plan, ARPA, and this is from council's initiatives. And we looked at small business assistance and economic development initiatives, and I'm going to let you know which businesses or rather what type of programs we recommended. The county is going to release 800 of that $2 million, and the balance $1,200,000 we're waiting for the feasibility study to be done for the food hall, and we'll go back to the county. But for now, we are proposing a $228,000 for small business assistance loans. Those are the forgivable loans. If you meet the criteria and if you're able to provide or show us that you are either creating or retaining jobs, this will be a good fit for you. And quite a number of our businesses actually benefited from the local one that we had. I think we had about 6 or 7 businesses that were able to take advantage of it. And I'm pleased to say most of them actually created or retained jobs that met the criteria. That we have just one more year to also demonstrate that that's what they're doing. But the criteria is for every $35,000 that you put in a business, you have to demonstrate you either created a job or you retained a job, a full-time job or equivalent of a full-time job. We also recommended the Downtown Redevelopment Area Business Initiative, which is very similar to this past Main Street development that I just spoke of, and that's $160,000. So in all, we'll have a sizable amount of money to help with retrofitting or helping with equipment for businesses, small businesses, of course. Then we're recommending the Historic Facade Renovation Program. That's going to be $128,000. We'll finally be able to move it because for quite some time we've not been able to get a consultant on board. With historic preservation type of projects, you need a historic preservation consultant to actually certify that the work that's going to be done in the facade meets the criteria of the Secretary of Interior standards. Otherwise, it's not eligible and would have to pay the money back. So we will have to go out and get a consultant who does that, and then we can advertise to have the businesses that are willing to participate in this program to actually come and apply, and we would be doing dollar for dollar match. So if they wanted to replace windows, or if they wanted to replace the door, work on the facade, whichever way that is correct, it's $1 for $1 up to $7,000, which means it can be a $14,000 or $15,000 project. Now the owner can put in much more, but the minimum is $1 for $1. So we'll be able to activate that project. It's done quite a number of projects downtown. I'll tell you, like Pauline's and the lawyers office right next to, that was done with historic facade money. So it's quite a bit of downtown funds that are actually done facade work. It's just that we didn't have enough to activate it again, and this will allow us to activate that project again. We will be pairing that also with about 50,000, I won't go much, 50,000 for CDBG, so at least that will help give it a heft and push it forward. We also have asked for 80,000 to do a fit out where we'll have our small business center as well as the Norristown Experience, that's the chamber group, being one office. And we're looking at, I guess I can mention the 401 DeKalb. And I think the solicitor is looking at the lease right now before we get into it. But we're setting aside about 80,000 to help, paint, refurbish it, make it decent, have a conference room so that when our small business clients come in, they have an office space, privacy, and also are able to get assistance from both the chamber as well as our small assistance center. And then, of course, we're asking for $164,000 to be paid to the planning staff that will be managing this process. And that also helps with alleviating the burden on general fund. So that will reimburse the general fund for the salaries that the planning department has. That's for a total of $800,000.
Council, any questions?
I have a question. Who owns 201 DeKalb?
It's 401 DeKalb, and that is the DeKalb side of the Theater Horizon building. That right on the corner as you walk into the Theater Horizon building, and that's what's his name?
It's in the same building.
Yes.
Is it Weinstein?
Weinstein.
Ken Weinstein.
Yeah, Ken Weinstein.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve authorization to enter into a recipient agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith?
Aye.
Dustin Queenan?
Aye.
Lauren Hughes?
Aye.
Heather Lewis?
Aye.
Thomas LaPera?
Aye. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Request passes. Thank you.
Sure.
Moving on to finance, Ms. Pfister, presentation of the proposed 2024 Municipality of Norristown operating budget.
All right, Council, so this is going to be kind of a tag team for Kathy and I. We had, as you know, we had a meeting with Council. Yes, thank you. Meeting with Council, was it last week? The weeks kind of rolled by and made an initial presentation. What we're doing tonight is following the process to make the budget public so that we can, beginning tomorrow, have the budget for public review as we go through the process. And so we'll try as quickly as possible to get through this. There'll be copies of the presentation and the detail, the several pages of detail about the budget that'll be available to public for any information they want about what's being proposed. So, okay, is it up? No, it's not. So tonight we're just, as I say, give a brief overview of 2023 budget status, where we are this year. Then we'll talk about fiscal projections for 2024 and get any council input on proposed strategy for 2024 and beyond. Again, this is a first cut of this. As far as the budget process goes, the budget we put together tonight and advertised for the public. Once we have that budget advertised, council cannot propose to raise taxes any higher, but you can lower in terms of an adoption once we get through this point. So in terms of 2023 budget status, the good news is all of our Act 511 taxes, EIT, business, earned income tax, business privilege tax, etc., have been trending at a pace of about $800,000 higher than we had anticipated in the last budget projections, which is great. It's great news. Interest earnings have been higher than we budgeted, and we always, I will tell you, we are always very conservative in our budgeting. And of course, because interest rates rose, the amount of return we got on the money that we have in accounts rose. Most of this is ARPA money from the $20.2 million that the municipality received in ARPA money a couple of years back. We also, more good news, that the health benefit expenses were about $500,000 less than we thought they would be due to rebates that we get, insurance and rebates that we get, basically for managing like a health safety program really well, etc. Staffing, we had some staffing shortages, and then because of how we performed with our health benefits and our insurance, we got a lower rate increase than we had anticipated in terms of our premiums. ARPA funds, as budgeted, $942,000 of the funds will be utilized in 2023. We have been very diligent following council's direction and votes to authorize spending of ARPA funds. We're going to spend some tonight if you all make a vote. And if there are any excess funds, based on following the rules of ARPA, we will have the option to transfer the remaining funds to our CIP budget for future capital improvement projects that the council might want to have. So, moving into 2024 and what we saw. When we initially talked to council, we came to you with a $1.3 or $1.4 million gap between where we are projecting and in terms of revenue and expenditures for 2024. We've been very diligently working. Finance department and myself have been working to reduce that. As has been the case all along, revenues continue to remain relatively flat. And usually what happens if there's a tax rate increase, there will be a jump in revenues. Or if, for instance, through the development that's happening in town, if there is an assessment change in terms of the total value of properties in town for the tax basis of the town to be set, we'll see some increase in revenues. I think since I've been here since 2013, we've always had a relatively flat assessment for tax basis purposes. I think it's always ranged between $870 to $890,000 for the value of 1 mil of tax for the municipality. And so we haven't seen any large increases, but that's what all of this development talk is about, trying to bump that number up. I'll give you a comparison. A mill of ours, again, about $890,000 right now. A mill of King of Prussia is probably in the neighborhood of $4 million. That's the difference in tax base. So when folks talk about our tax rates are higher than another communities, well, it takes, in Norristown, it takes, basically 5 mills of tax to get $4 million in King of Prussia. That's 1 mill of tax to get $4 million. So it's not an equal thing. It's not apples to apples in terms of tax rates. Some additional issues that we have, again, expenditures do increase. Inflation hits us just like it hits everybody else. And so, and salary increases, and as you know, most of our salaries are negotiated salaries for labor agreements that we have. Team and I negotiate 5 different labor contracts for Norristown. So wage increases for police and fire, which are those are our largest 2 operations, followed by public works in terms of department sizes. They're currently set in terms of negotiations at 3% in terms of our projections. Negotiations are underway right now, and we start the negotiation with 3%. Where we end up as we go through that process, we'll continually notify council. If it goes to 4%, we would add $152,000 to the budget for 2024. If it goes to 5%, we'd add $304,000 to the 2024 budget. So we're in that process. Again, inflation affects both our labor and our operating costs. The stock market has been lower, as you've seen, so it actually increased our pension costs. I think it was last year, the year before, in terms of our two biggest pensions, police and fire. For the police department, we had gotten actually toward being whole with the police department. I think we were at 91% funded. That number was like 50-something% in 2013. And we were like 102%, I believe, with fire funded. And then inflation, stock market, all of those things hit. We are now where we're at 70.
71, 72.
Yeah, 72% funded in the police department, which is the biggest one. So we saw all of those gains, and then just as the market goes, we see those losses. So we're having as a result of that, we have to put more in. You guys, I think, approved our minimum municipal obligation that we're required to do to contribute to pension funds, those two pension funds, and that number goes up if the fund is not whole. And so we've done that, and so that's another challenge that contributed to that initial $1.4 million grant. As we also know, because we are, council's goal for years has been to expand the recreation programming for Norristown residents and kids, and so we're underway with that. One of the other things with the budget is that we will definitely be adding, we've added staff starting the second half of this year, and as things go with the projected development of the recreation center, and that we've been negotiating with the county for ARPA, there will be additional labor and operating costs that will come. I don't expect those will be in 2024, but in years ahead, we're going to have to address that to a large extent. So we looked at strategies of how we want to address this revenue gap. So we know that there are some things on the table that will give us the opportunity. Council did a great thing a few years ago in acquiring the main and DeKalb property that the city had wanted to do, and certainly the James Department had recommended for years. So we purchased that property. We're anticipating that in spring of next year, we're going to close on that, on the sale of that property, which is $2.5 million. And so one of the ways we can look at it is to apply $1.5 million of that dollars toward supporting the general fund for additional revenue. Increasing taxes would be another $1,890,000. Use ARPA funds again this year to cover a part of the gap, and we could continue to refine revenue estimates. That last one particularly, I don't want to be too aggressive in that because you just don't know how revenue is going to flow. So as far as expenditures, look for cuts in expenditures while maintaining certainly at least the core operations of the municipality. Again, our expenditures over the last 10 years have been relatively flat. We don't have a whole lot of operational expenditures. 3 to 4% is particularly where we've always been in terms of expenditures that follow actually the cost of doing business and normal cost increases. One of the things we can consider, and we started talking about last week, was rather than looking at percentage salary increases in some area, whether incentive bonuses can be used as a factor to address inflation rather than an actual percentage. So maybe, not 4%, maybe 3% plus a bonus to keep you from doing that. So we'll continue to look at that, refine it as we go back. Kathy, this is your table. I am running until you go through this, and I'll come back if need.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. All right, I'm just going to go through through more of the details of the revenue and expenses. So if you look at the total here, you'll see that the revenue, the budget from last year to this year has gone up for about $1.3 million. Unfortunately, you have a pointer? Yeah, he'd like to leave it.
No, you did it.
That's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll mess something up.
Okay.
The biggest drivers of our revenue, if you see, is the real property taxes and the other local taxes. And that's 71% of our revenue. So that's what we depend on most to get our revenue, to cover our expenses. So, so you have 30 million there out of the 41 million. Let me see what else. Okay. So the next slide. This is the property, this goes into the property tax. This is what Crandall was talking about. Since 2013, our tax base has only grown 2%. We're fully developed municipality. There's not a whole lot of room to grow. So between 870 million and 890 million. So that's what we depend on. Back when we got debt for the building 2 years ago, this is one of the things that we're looking at. Back in 2019, we started going down, and that does affect our credit rating. But thankfully, the last couple of years they've gone up, and with all Jane's hard work, it will continue to go up. So that will help us. Do you have any questions there?
Thank God for Jane.
Yeah. The next one is other local taxes. Now, since 2013, for the past 10 years, it's only grown $4 million. So that's about $400,000 a year in our local taxes, yet our expenses go up about $1 million to $1 million a year. So again, the largest piece of this is EIT. Again, you can see in 2020, it went down, COVID, but we're right back about where we should be for 2022. So we hope that continues to grow. The next slide is our expenditures. This shows the breakdown of what our general fund expenditures are. Almost 50% is our salary, 10% is retirement, 16% are benefits. So 85% of our general fund is pure personnel related. The rest of it's 6% debt and 19% is the general operating cost. So when we're raising salaries, that affects 85% of our budget. This is the expenditures detailed by department. As you can see, the police and fire are our largest departments. Public Works comes next. That also includes trash, which is about $4 million. And our expenses have gone up from the budget 23 to proposed 2024, about $2 million. Any questions on the by department?
Questions?
Okay, this is just a summary again. The total personnel costs are 63% of our total budget. And just highlights that's our people, police and fire protection. And this is the net. We have a revenue increased 3%, our expenditures increased 4.9%, and that leaves us with a $736,000 gap to fill. The last 2 years, we've used ARPA funds to fill that gap. This is another trend just showing our operating budget by year. So from 2019 to 2023, our average over the 4 years is about $500,000, a little over $500,000 to meet our budget, including the ARPA help. And again, you can see the personnel cost is the bulk of our budget. So these are 4 choices to close the gap. Reduce expenses, use our fund balance, tax increase, and again, this is our last year that we can use ARPA funds. To reduce expenses, we've been really tight the past few years. The municipality aims to maintain current service levels. We're limited by contracts, our unions, 5 unions. Inflation continues to cause price increases. And again, our personnel costs are 63% of our budget. Furloughs have been done in the far past, but you're losing services when that happens. We can use fund balance. Fund balance we used between 2017 and 23 of the 4 years. That again, when we're looking at the rating agencies, they look at that and they don't like it when you're using your savings. And our fund balance was really decreased. ARPA funds we've used the past 2 years, and that's helped us build up our fund balance again. Continued reliance on the fund balance will affect our credit rating. We have future projects, the new fire station, the rec center. We're going to require outside funding for that. So we really want to focus on getting a good rating and keep our interest rates low. These are the things, the last time we went to the rating agencies, these are the things they're looking at. Healthy fund balance. We're there already, so we just need to keep it. Good financial policies and practices, which is the planning and budget controls, which we have. The economic outlook, the tax base has been very sluggish. They look at that. But the offset to that is you have to be willing to raise taxes rather than use your fund balance. Fund balance you use for emergencies, another COVID, that's special things. You don't want to use it for your normal operating costs. So that's what they look for.
Yeah, and I also just throw in again, and we've said it before, but I want to certainly say it for the public's benefit. One of the things we've always recommended is that, so that you don't have to do large millage rates, that you do a small incremental, even if it's a 1/4 point rate at a regular time, so it doesn't hit folks so hard. I think a few years back we found ourselves because we hadn't done it for so many years, the problem is you have to catch up at some time or you're in a zero-sum game.
Yeah, it was from 12 to 14.
Yeah. So, and then we ended up having to do 2 meals that year, which you don't want to do. But if you get into a steady when you need it, and one of the things we'll look at is, do we really need it? Mm-hmm. But just be open to a small increase so that you don't have to put a large increase on.
Yeah, the average of the 4 years was about a half. So we may have to go, depending on how our EIT goes, and it may be, we may end up doing a half a year, 1/4 year, depending. Okay, and then tax increase. Again, nobody likes to increase taxes. Last year we raised it in the entire mill. We did not raise it the year before. That would give us about $890,000. Trash fees are increasing based on contract, $26 per unit. So this just gives you the effect of our residential properties. If we raise taxes a 1/4 mil plus the $26 a unit, a single unit would go up $44 for taxes. If we raise it a 1/2 mil, it would be $61. With a quadruplex, it would be $127 increase in tax for a year, and the 1/2 mil would be $149.
And that's
the impact.
Per 100,000, right?
No,
that's not per 100.
That's the mill is applied,
okay.
but this is the impact to the property, the tax increase.
Okay.
Last option is ARPA funds. This is the last year we can use ARPA funds. We used it in 2022 and 2023. Again, it's a short-term solution. You have to catch up eventually. But we still have $1.8 million to use for the revenue loss section, which is used to support the general fund. So we can use it for general expenses. So last year we had a $2.8 million gap.
We split it 3 ways. We used a third of ARPA, a third tax increase, and we refined our projections by another 1/3. So we did not use fund balance. What we recommend for this year, for the 736, increase taxes, a $250,000, and that will generate $222,000. Use $513,000 in ARPA funds, and that would balance our budget. I also recommend, since this is last year, we can use our ARPA funds, use the remaining $1.2 million in revenue loss, and then we can use that to move to CIP, the savings move it to CIP. And then we have that for future projects. We can maybe borrow less for the fire station or the rec center. So that would help us.
And also, Council, I know we're in grant-seeking mode right now for that last piece of the culvert property that we need to deal, and that's a $1.4 million price tag. That estimate was early in the year, I believe, so which might change, so it's probably no good.
So, but if we use it for general fund, we can put in CIP, and then we have it for whatever we need it. Any questions on this?
Any questions, Council?
And upcoming dates. Starting tomorrow, the budget will be available in detail for the public. And we have 3 public meetings starting, coming up. Tomorrow night is the first one, next Wednesday night, and then Monday the 20th at noon. And then Tuesday, December 5th, we will have hopefully the final adoption.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Chief Bishop, resolution number 23-74.
Thank you, Council President. Council, this resolution 2374 is a motion to approve request for disabled parking spaces at the following addresses: 646 Stanbridge Street, 522 Hawes Avenue, 858 Cherry Street, and 566 Noble Street. As follow-up, Officer Crawford has looked at the physical or the medical documentation that each resident has provided and shows that has supported his or her request for these accommodations. And there is no off-street parking available for any of the addresses, which would negate the need for these accommodations.
Council, any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve resolution 23-74?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith?
Aye.
Dustin Queenan?
Aye.
Lauren Hughes?
Aye.
Heather Lewis? Heather Lewis? Oh.
Heather?
Yeah. She's gone. Thomas LaPera?
Aye. The ayes have it, resolution passes. Chief Bishop, resolution 23-76.
Thank you, Council President.
Council, again, before you is a request for council to approve the purchase and upfitting of a new Ford Explorer SUV for the Chief of Police. This was actually approved in the 2023 CIP budget. The purchase of the new Ford Explorer XLT SUV, a copy of the quote is attached to the resolution. Upfitting would cost about $7,500. Price not to exceed $49,318 total for upfitting in the new vehicle.
Council, any questions?
Basically, it's already approved in the budget, so, yeah. I'm
Did
good.
you hear your earlier question answered?
Yeah, I talked to her.
Part of our CIP project.
Yeah.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve resolution 23-76? Anybody?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith?
Aye.
Dustin Queenan?
Aye.
Lauren Hughes?
Aye.
Heather Lewis?
Aye.
Okay. And Thomas LaPera?
Aye, the ayes have it, resolution passes. Thank you. Mr. Jones, request for municipal council approval of asset appeal stipulations.
Thank you, President LaPera. Council, you have before you a request to approve an assessment appeal stipulation that was agreed upon by the Norristown Area School District with 2 property owners. As you know, we typically follow the school district's advisement rather than invest in our attorney doing it. If our attorney reviews it and sees that it's prudent for us to get involved, we will do so. In these instances, it did not prove prudent for us to get involved. As a result of those negotiations, for 151 West Marshall Street, they will be due a refund in amount of $6,854.10 from their assessment, and 1700 Pine Street is due for a refund of $11,291.74 for a total of $18,145.84.
Council, any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the asset appeal stipulations?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Lauren Hughes.
Aye.
Heather Lewis.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye, the ayes have it. Motion passes. Mr. Jones, Resolution 23-75.
Council, I am very happy to bring forth Resolution 23-75, which is a request for Municipal Council to approve an intent to award letter for Poley Park Skate Park to Spohn Ranch Skate Parks with a low bid amount of $1 million. Council, as a bit of background, you already realize that this is the third bid of this project. The first bid, we had 2 bidders, neither of which could meet the responsible contractor ordinance. We rebid it. Council's direction then, and our recommendation was that we try the state Keystone project, which is supposed to be speedier in terms of getting project back out and awarded. It proved to be extremely not speedier, extremely cumbersome, and it also contained a lot of unnecessary markups that our municipal engineer picked apart. Ultimately, the contracted, the way it works, that a contractor is awarded an area. That contractor then farms out for any subcontract work that they want to do in this area. What we didn't know until we got into this process is that there's a lot of unnecessary marking up by the contractor, and to the extent of 27% in one area, 20% in another area, and we just decided this is not the right thing to do. We came back to council. You authorized a third bid, and this bid came back. Both contractors from all the research, and I'll let Cal talk to you about that, seem to meet the RCO contract. So I know that there might have been some concerns and discussions about the one firm versus the other. At the end of the day, the skate park project that council wants delivered will be the skate park project that you get delivered. As we specified in all 3 bids, there's going to be a community engagement process where the community is going to weigh in as part of the design process. And the same steering committee is in place also to make sure it does. Our engineer Cal Hassan is on the steering committee. I'm on the steering committee, and Jimmy Gorecki, the Norristown skater who is professional, we are the steering committee. So we're going to make sure that we get in front of you, in front of the community, the right amount of community engagement, get in front of you, so no developer is going to have, a contractor is going to have the right to come in and say, it's this and this is what we're going to bid. So it's going to be the project that the community wants to deliver. I've had conversations back and forth with Jimmy about it because he did have those concerns, and I shared with him. You know, you're the heart and soul of this as a skate pro in terms of us getting that, and so I don't have any concerns. I know Cal did his research on the contractors, and Cal, I turn it over to you to share your information regarding the bids and their ability to deliver. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Good evening, Council. As Mr. Jones had mentioned, after a long waiting time for these bids, we finally opened them, and the low bid is satisfactory. We did check the references provided by Spohn Ranch Skate Parks, and they all checked out. Everybody spoke very highly of them, how responsible they are and how efficient they are. And they completed work on time, which is, in this case, obviously is extremely important. If this intent to award is approved tonight, we will inform the contractor, and then the contractor has 12 days per the RCO to submit all the required documentations as required by the RCO. And then, again, as Mr. Jones had mentioned, once the project moves forward and then the contractor is given notice to proceed and then they submit all the required documents, then the actual work will start and the meetings will take place and concepts will be discussed. And then the final concept that is commented on by the public and also as approved by council, that is the concept that's going to be moving forward in design, permitting, and then eventually after that, construction. Jimmy Gorecki is, I have never seen a person who is as passionate as he is. He's always calling, he's always emailing, he's looking forward to it. We all are looking forward to it. And therefore, our recommendation is before council tonight for your consideration. And based on your motion, we will move forward accordingly.
Council, any questions? So basically, this is a design build bid project so that this price is not, just for the record here, there's not a design bid on, it's design build.
Design build.
The community will have several meetings to add their input in, steering committee as well, to make sure Spohn Ranch gets it right.
That's right, and council as well.
This is not a public comment period, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. So with that, all the public engagement process, and they'll have a design that can actually be utilized so that it's used for the right reasons.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, council? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 23-75?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary?
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Lauren Hughes.
Aye.
Heather Lewis.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye, the ayes have it, resolution passes. Departmental reports, Chief Bishop.
Thank you, Council President. Council, for the month of October, the Norristown Police received 3,523 calls for service, which is up a little bit from the prior year, October, where we only had 30,474. As far as our goals and objectives going, for our first objective, we're 645 partner crimes up until the end of October, and looking to be under 700 for the year. We may be very close to that. Number 2, reducing fatal and non-fatal shootings to total of 14. We're currently at 8 total. One, actually, there were no rounds fired, but there was charges filed on it. We're at about a 70% decrease in gun violence this year as compared to last year, which is outstanding. There's been a 40% decrease in robberies for the month of October, which was very good, after we went through an increase in September. We're about even for 2022, so we really don't have an increase as far as that goes. We're close to being at the goal of 50, or being under 50 at 48 right now, so keep an eye on that. Objective 4, if I remove the TikTok problem that we have with theft of motor vehicles, we would be at a huge decrease in this. Unfortunately, it's still out there, although I have seen reduction in these incidents in the last 2 months, so I'm hoping the kids are tired of going out and trying to get Kias and Hyundais. Objective 5, we've had a 43% increase in domestic-related incidents. There were 30 in 2023 and 21 2022, but there's a 15% increase in DVI-related incidents compared to 2022. Our calls for service for domestic violence-related incidents is increased by 33% as compared to September 2022, and a 1% increase in domestic violence calls for service. Objective 6, we've attended, I think, 12, maybe 13 community events in October. What we are at this year is approximately 100% more or double the amount of community events that we attended this time last year, somewhere up around 160. Objective 7, 73% decrease in crash-related injuries. The one big thing I'm noting in our accident reports is there is a huge increase in the pedestrian accidents with vehicles. And I think that has a lot to do with people just crossing at the wrong times in the middle of intersections. It is not as much to do with the drivers as the pedestrians. And Objective 8, overdoses. We had a decrease in September for fatal overdoses and an increase in non-fatal overdoses as compared to September last year. Overall, if we look at a 9-year comparison, compared to 2006 to 2014, our years of 2015 to 2023, we are at a 51% decrease in Part 1 crimes total, which equates to about 6,000 less victims of crime in Norristown. And for our violent Part 1 crimes, which would include murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault, we're at a 59% decrease, or approximately 2,000 less victims over that same time period. So I think that the police department is doing extremely well. Personnel-wise, we have 2 new officers on the street currently doing field training. They were just sworn in recently, and we have just added 2 new professional staff members to our staff, which is starting to build our department back up.
Council, any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Chief O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your operational summary for the month of October is the fire department has responded year-to-date to 1,138 emergency incidents. Our average response time is 4 minutes and 43 seconds. Our busiest time frame are Tuesdays at 7 p.m. So far this year, the department trained 1,204 training classes, equating to 4,331 hours. For the year, we've had 3 firefighter injuries, 2 civilian injuries, and 0 casualties. We've completed 372 commercial fire inspections, conducted 243 public education events, conducted 11 fire drills. Total homes visited to install smoke detectors is 1,074, of which we installed 301 smoke and carbon monoxide alarms in homes. We utilized the fire safety house to train our youth in the community on 6 occasions. And our fleet out of service hours for the year are 1,738 hours. That's it.
Any questions, Council? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Singh, Code.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, just a few quick updates. Currently, we are in the process of hiring 3 inspectors, and we are also working with Municipal Administrator Jones and the Municipal Solicitor's Office to do another round of updating our forms and inspection reports to enhance the customer service and experience that our stakeholders have when they are conducting business with the department. Just a quick update, since our Chapter 251 was adopted, which is a new contractor licensing requirements back in November 2021, it went into effect in January of 2022. Since then, we've actually issued over 1,200 contractor licenses under the new requirements under the municipal code. And year-to-date, regarding property maintenance ticketing, we have issued 3,073 tickets. That is a 3% increase from all of last year, and we still have a month left in 2023. With proactive code enforcement and code compliance efforts, we have issued 4,733 notices so far this year, which is an increase of 54% from all of last year. Property transfers, year-to-date, we have conducted 688 inspections. This is actually down about 11% from this time last year, but this is market-driven. And with rental housing inspections, there's a significant increase. We have been really working very diligently in making sure that all of the rental properties in Norristown are obtaining their rental license and they are getting inspected. So I'm happy to report that so far this year we have inspected 1,344 housing units, which is an actual increase of 72% than this time last year. And last year we conducted more than the year before, and then the last year was the year before. So we are really stepping it up and making sure that all of the rental homes in Norristown are safe for our residents. And in case anybody was wondering, there's only 33 business days left in the year, and we're going to continue to make sure that we make every day count. And the last update that I have for council, and this is actually a really big one, is that Norristown achieved a significant lead safety milestone 2 weeks ago. Through the administration and enforcement of Norristown's lead poisoning prevention and lead hazard control ordinance, the department has successfully certified over 4,475 rental housing units as either lead safe or lead free. What that means is we have 50% of all rental housing units now being lead safe or lead free. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Municipal Council and Municipal Administrator Jones for your leadership and commitment to lead safety. And I also want to share that this milestone would not have been possible without the hard work of the property owners and the realtors and the lead inspectors who have dedicated their efforts to ensure that Norristown's homes are safe for children. And without their hard work and cooperation, this would not have been possible. So I do want to thank all of the property owners, realtors, lead inspectors, and everyone involved with making this happen. And it was a team effort, and the best part about this is that we're ensuring that the well-being of our youngest residents is being taken into consideration with this ordinance that we have. So I just wanted to share that as well. And in January, we will have a more formal update for all of our operations for 2023 with all of the stats and data for what we accomplished this year for the municipality.
Council, any questions? Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Madam Secretary, or all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Please adjourn.